Breaking news, everybody. We got a fight announcement. Leon Edwards is going to be fighting Jorge Masvidal finally gets put together, and it's going to be on UFC 269, which is that Charles Oliveira versus Dustin Poirier card in December, shaping up to be one of the best cards of the year as well. So we got 267, 268, and UFC 269 to finish off the year, and they are looking to be some of the best pay-per-views I've ever seen. Now, there is one shift they had to make for this pay-per-view card because they couldn't have it all, right? They were going to have 3 title fights on this, as well as Edwards versus Masvidal. They pulled off Brandon Moreno versus Deiveson Figueiredo 3 and moved it to UFC 270 on January 22nd. So UFC 269 is going to be left with 2 title fights and amazing fights throughout it. Leon Edwards versus Jorge Masvidal, though, by itself is one of the best drawing fights of the year. I believe Charles Oliveira versus Dustin Poirier by itself will draw more than Masvidal versus Edwards because of the new stardom that Dustin Poirier has founded, but it is interesting to see that Edwards versus Masvidal, even though it's the 3rd last fight on this card, it is one of the best drawing fights of the year so far. Now, firstly, Leon is fighting the BMF champ. He beat Nate Diaz, who fought for the BMF title, and now he's fighting the BMF champion. It's like he's going up the BMF rankings and taking that belt away from Jorge. If he beats Jorge, is Leon Edwards the BMF of the UFC? And another thing here is, what does this fight actually mean for the welterweight division? If Leon beats Jorge, 100% he's going to fight for the title. He has the win streak, and getting a win over Jorge Masvidal on such a grand stage like UFC 269 in such a high-profile fight, the UFC is, of course, going to capitalize on that opportunity and give Leon another chance at Kamaru Usman. If Jorge wins, he's in a sticky position. I mean, at this point, losing to Kamaru Usman twice and getting knocked out in the second one, I guess fun fights for Jorge are on the horizon. Like, nothing to really chase the title, just to make money and get some big fights in there. I don't know what you do with Jorge if he goes and beats Leon. You could do a rematch with Wonderboy. I know that Jorge would want to get that one back, so that's a potentially good fight to put together. Honestly, that's probably the best fight to put together if he goes and beats Edwards, because there's no way he's going to fight for a title unless Kamaru Usman loses. That's the thing. What if Colby does beat Kamaru? Well, they're going to have to do an immediate rematch most likely. But Jorge could potentially wait out, maybe go and fight Gilbert Burns and try to get a fight with Colby Covington, because honestly, a Colby versus Jorge fight is potentially bigger than a Kamaru versus Jorge fight due to the rivalry and the bad blood and the storyline and all that stuff. Champion Colby Covington versus Jorge coming off a big win is potentially one of the biggest fights in the UFC. Do you know what would really be unlucky? If Leon beats Jorge, Colby beats Usman, because now Leon would have to wait out even longer for that trilogy to end in order to get his title shot. He might be waiting out until like the end of next year, but that's a big if for both fighters, Leon and Jorge, to beat each other. I mean, I can see this fight going either way, and stylistically, it is potentially fun. It really depends on how Jorge is going to fight this fight after suffering that huge knockout loss, the first knockout loss of his entire career against Kamaru Usman, because Leon is not a guy you can generally just blitz down or be super aggressive on and has some success. He's a very long fighter, a lot longer than Masvidal is. He's a sharp counterpuncher, except I don't like some of his hooks on the back foot. Throughout his entire career, his hooks have been extremely looping and wide, and it is one reason as to why Nate Diaz was able to connect on him in that 5th round and hurt him. Straight punches beat looping punches, and Masvidal can be very fast on the trigger. He could be extremely explosive to darting on you. He did the exact same thing on Darren Till, who's also a bigger and longer fighter. So there is a chance for Masvidal to connect with the same punch that Nate Diaz connected on Edwards with. Everything else is going to be relatively difficult for Jorge to catch Edwards, to be honest here. Edwards has better cardio. He generally attacks with far more volume and can keep up with a faster pace than Masvidal can. Jorge likes to pick out his shots and explode in through those openings, and generally just attack you from a far range with kicks to the body and kicks to the leg. I do see Edwards' kicks being far more useful in this fight, from front kicks to leg kicks to high kicks. Edwards, for the most part, is just a better technical striker, whereas Jorge is the more dangerous striker. He could find that opening on Edwards and get his chin exploited again. And that's the thing a lot of people seem to be talking about after that Nate Diaz fight with Leon. Leon's chin is probably not that good, and how is he going to take another shot? And is he going to be the same after getting rocked by Nate like that? It was the first time we ever saw him in that state, and honestly one of the first times we ever seen him get hit clean. Leon does not get hit clean often. Now, that could be due to the quality of opponents that he has fought over the years, not generally the highest caliber fighters, but I don't think his chin is going to be worse than much after getting caught by Nate Diaz. I think that Leon generally doesn't have the greatest chin. It just got exposed against Nate. I mean, when do you ever see Leon get hit that clean? And Jorge is going to be the highest caliber fighter, the most dangerous striker that Leon has ever fought in his entire career. I'm much more more concerned about Jorge's chin after getting knocked out by Kamaru Usman. Leon just might not have the greatest chin in the world generally, we just don't ever see him get hit, so we never really knew how good it is until that Nate Diaz fight. But Jorge has been taking a lot of damage throughout his entire career and now finally got knocked unconscious. His chin might never be the same after that blow. And even though Leon isn't the most powerful guy in the world, he definitely has power to knock out his opponent with one shot. So the biggest question going into this fight is about the chin of each fighter. Can one of them take a shot from the other? If their chins are that bad in Leon's case, or that compromised in Jorge's case, there's a potential for this fight to end very quickly, whereas normally, most people would have thought that this fight would go to a decision, through the safeness and patience of Leon Edwards, and through the toughness that Jorge possesses. But now, I don't know, man. But do you know what's pretty funny about both fighters? They both got rocked or knocked out in their last fight, doing the exact same thing against the exact same attack. Leon and Nate are southpaw, Jorge and Kamaru are orthodox, and both Leon and Jorge were trying to parry what they thought were going to be a jab. Turn out Kamaru and Nate threw a hook instead, and Leon and Jorge try to counter with a check lead hook, ultimately getting caught down the center, straight punch beat looping punch. Leon got rocked and Jorge got knocked out. Just a difference in power between Nate and Kamaru here. So the funny thing about this is, they could both hit each other with this thing. They could both attack each other with that 1-2, fake the left, throw the right cross or something, and tag the other guy through their weaknesses. Jorge potentially has to rely on his speed though, in order to get in there quickly, because Nate was slower than Leon, but he was longer than Leon, so it made up the speed difference. Jorge being a little bit shorter than Leon, he's gonna have to really rely on his speed to get in there quickly, but he is a fast guy for this division. He's able to get inside on opponents very quickly many times. And Leon could do the exact same thing Usman did against Jorge, who is gonna benefit more to go on that attack, because he is the longer guy and he's faster than Usman. Because number one, he is slightly longer than Jorge, and number two, he doesn't really slow down in fights. Jorge has shown in the past that he does slow down as the fight goes on. So the speed of Jorge potentially will decrease the longer the fight goes. Without that speed advantage, how's he really going to get inside on Leon Edwards? He's going to have to make this count earlier in the fight. It's a fascinating game that these two are going to be playing against each other. There's going to be a lot of kicks from the outside against each other. A lot of leg kicks and body kicks are going to be landed here. I could potentially see the jab from Leon Edwards giving Jorge a bunch of issues. Jorge's going to generally try to parry most of them, but the higher the volume is for Leon, the more Jorge's going to stay on the defense, and because of that, the more of the fight that Leon is going to control, ultimately winning on the scorecards through his volume, and that's ultimately how I do kind of see this fight going. Leon picking Jorge from the outside, countering Jorge as he makes his way in, and generally making his footwork count most for this fight. But as soon as Jorge makes his way in and gets in close on Leon, Leon is going to be in trouble because, man, I do not trust his chin at all. It's a different level of power when you're fighting Jorge. Jorge is legit one-shot knockout power, especially with the way he explodes in. He gets inside on Leon, this fight might be over very quickly. Leon does have the Thai plum, he has good knees and elbows in the clinch, so he could potentially do that to neutralize the aggression and turn the fight into his favor. But the thing about the clinch is, Jorge is extremely good at that as well. He has excellent elbows and explodes on you at a blink of an eye. When he knocked out Nate Diaz, it stemmed from the clinch strikes. And that is what makes this fight extremely difficult to predict here, because I can see Jorge knocking out Leon, but on the scorecards, I think Leon will win on the scorecards. If it goes to a decision, I see Leon winning the fight through volume. But if a knockout happens, unless Jorge's chin is compromised, I can really only see a Jorge knocking out Leon. So what I will say is, for my early prediction, I'm going to go with Leon Edwards very slightly to win this by a decision. I do see him getting hurt in the fight, but the later the rounds go, I do see Jorge gassing out, maybe blowing his wad trying to finish Leon, and Leon slightly taking over for the rest of the fight. So cannot wait to see this, man. UFC 269 is going to be insane. Leave in the comments below what do you guys think about this fight, and I'll see you guys in the next video.